أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear brothers and sisters. Alhamdulillah, with the grace of Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we gather here virtually on this Thursday night. And as mentioned in the email, that today we'll be dedicating the thawab of this majlis to the marhumin mentioned in the email, starting with the uncle, the mamu of Sultan uncle, brother Sultan Hudda's uncle, Marhum Ebrahim Kassam, who passed away in Kenya, and also the uncle of brother Murtaza Ali and the uncle of sister Shama Murtaza, who was Marhum Gulam Sajjad Dewraj, and inshallah dedicating the thawab to the shahada as well. We'll start with the recitation of Surah Yasin, and inshallah dedicating the thawab to these marhumin. Inshallah, to start with the recitation, I request my dear brother, also as it was sent an email today, as we received the news of the passing away of Marhuma Anis Azizi, who passed away in Toronto, and she was the wife of brother Ahad Sultani, the mother of Ridla Sultani, brothers Jawad Sultani, sister Marhum Alizi, sister Hamina Sultani, and who was the mother-in-law of Jamshed Alizi, and who was the mother of Sister Sumaya Sultani, Sister Zahra Sultani, and Sister Nazneen Sultani, and conveying our condolences to all these community members on their respective loss. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah grants these marhumin a high rank in the company of His awliya. To dedicate the thawab of Surah Yasin, I'll request my dear brother Yusuf, first of all, to start with a short surah, and then after that, we'll start with the recitation of Surah Yasin. So I'm requesting Yusuf Rahman with a short surah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. إذا السماء انشقت وأذنت لربها وهقت وإذا الأرض مدت وألقت ما فيها وتخلت وأذنت لربها وهقت يا أيها الإنسان إنك كادح إلى ربك كدحا فملاقيه فأما من أوتي كتابه بيمينه فسوف يحاسب حسابا يسيرا وينقلب إلى أهله مسرورا وأما من أوتي كتابه وراء ظهره فسوف يدعو ثبورا ويصلى سعيرا إنه كان في أهله مسرورا إنه ظن أن لن يحور بلى إن ربه كان به بصيرا فلا أقسم بالشفق والليل وما وسق والقمر إذا اتسق لتركبن طبقا عن طبق فما لهم لا يؤمنون وإذا قرئ عليهم القرآن لا يسجدون بل الذين كفروا يكذبون والله أعلم بما يوعون فبشرهم بعذاب أليم إن الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات لهم أجر غير ممنون صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Thank you very much. That was our dear brother Yusuf Rahman. And now, in order to start with the recitation of Surah Al-Yasin, I request Brother Pervez and followed by Brother Miqdad Huda. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباءهم فهم غافلون لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي للأذقان فهم مفتحون وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون وسواء عليهم أنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشر بمغفرة وأجر كريم إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاء المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم لمرسلون قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد wa ali Muhammad.
إن أنتم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن أنتم إلا تكذبون قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون أتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغني عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وأعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالأرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. And now I request Brother Ali Mahboubi to inshallah continue with his translation of Surah Yasin. اللهم صل على محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشأ نخرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نعمره ننكسه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم ير الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Alhamdulillah, that was the recitation of Surah Yasin. Our respected brothers, Brother Pervez and Brother Murtaza and Brother Ali, may Allah accept this act of worship. And Alhamdulillah, before that we had the short surah recitation by Brother Yusuf. Next, we will have the recitation of the supplication of Kumail, Dua Kumail, starting with Brother Yusuf Rahman, then followed by Brother Ilyas Alizi. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaykum salam wa rahmatullah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم إني أسألك برحمتك التي وسعت كل شيء وبقوتك التي قهرت بها كل شيء وخضع لها كل شيء وذل لها كل شيء وبجبروتك التي غلبت بها كل شيء وبعزتك التي لا يقوم لها شيء وبعزامتك التي ملأت كل شيء وبسلطانك الذي على كل شيء وبوجهك الباقي بعد فناء كل شيء وبأسمائك التي ملأت أركان كل شيء وبعلمك الذي أحاط بكل شيء وبنور وجهك الذي أزاء له كل شيء يا نور يا قدوس يا نور يا قدوس يا نورا يا قدوس يا أول الأولين ويا آخر الآخرين اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحتك العصام اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل النقام اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تغير النعم اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحبس الدعاء اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تقطع الرجاء اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل البلاء اللهم اغفر لي كل ذنب أذنبت وكل خطيئة أخطأتها اللهم إني أتقرب إليك بذكرك واستشفع بك إلى نفسك وأسألك بجودك أن تدنيني من قربك وأن توزيني شكرك وأن تلحمني ذكرك اللهم إني أسألك بجودك أن تدنيني من قربك وأن توزيني شكرك وأن تلهمني ذكرك اللهم إني أسألك سؤال خازي متذلل خاشع أن تسامحني وترحمني وتجعلني بقسمك راضيا قانيا وفي جميع الأحوال متوازيا اللهم وسلك أسول من اشتدت فاقته وأنزل بك عند الشدائد هاجته وعزم فيما عندك رغبته اللهم عزم سلطانك وعلى مكانك وخفي مكرك وزهر أمرك وغلب قهرك وجرت قدرتك ولا يمكن الفرار من حكومتك اللهم لا أجد لذنوب غافرا ولا لقبائه ساترا ولا لشيء من عملي القبيح بالحسن مبدلا غيرك لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك وبحمدك ظلمت نفسي ظلمت نفسي ظلمت نفسي وتجرعت بجهلي وسكنت إلى قديم ذكرك لي ومنك علي اللهم مولاي كم من قبيح سترتا وكم من فادهم من البلاء أقلتا وكم من عثار وقيتا وكم من مكروه دفعتا وكم من ثناء جميل لست أهلا له نشرتا اللهم عزم بلائي وأفرت بسهالي وقصرت في أعمالي وقعدت بأغلالي وهبسني عن نفعي بعد أملي وخدعتني الدنيا بغرورها ونفسي بجناياتها ومقالي يا سيدي فأسألك بعزتك ألا يحجب عنك الدعاء سوء مالي وفعالي ولا تفزحني بخفي ما اطلعت عليه من سري ولا تعاجلني بالعقوبة على ما عملته في خلوات من سوء فعلي وإساءتي ودوام تفريط وجهالتي وكسرة شهواتي وغفلتي وكن اللهم بعزتك لي في كل الأحوال رعوفا وعلي في جميع الأمور يتوفى إلهي وربي من لي غيرك أسأله كشف ضري والنظر في أمري. إلهي ومولاي أجريت علي حكما اتبعت فيه هوى نفسي، ولم أحترف فيه من تزيين عدوي فغرني بما أهوى. وأسأله على ذلك القضاء فتجاوزت بما جرى علي من ذلك بعد حدودك، وخالفت بعد أوامرك، فلك الحمد علي في جميع ذلك، ولا حجة لي فيما جرى علي فيه قضاؤك، والزمني حكمك وبلاؤك، وقد أتيتك يا إلهي بعد تقصيري وإسرافي على نفسي، معتذرا نادما منكسرا مستقيلا مستغفرا منيبا مقرا مسئنا معترفا، لا أجد مفرا مما كان مني ولا مفزعا نتوجه إليه في أمري غير قبولك عذري وإدخالك إياي في سعة من رحمتك. اللهم فاقبل عذري وارحم شدة ذري وفكني من شدي وثاقي. يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني ورقة جلدي ودقة عزمي. يا من بدا خلقي وذكري وتربيتي وبري وتغذيتي، هبني لابتداء كرمك وسالف برك بي. يا إلهي وسيدي وربي تراك معذب بنارك بعد توحيدك، بعد ما انتوى عليه قلبي من معرفتك ولا هجى به لساني من ذكرك، واعتقده ضميري من حبك، وبعد صدق اعترافي ودوائي خاضيا لربوبيتك. هيهات أنت أكرم من أن تزيئ من ربيته أو تبعد من أدنيت أو تشرد من آويت أو تسلم إلى البلاء من كفيته ورحمته. وليت شعري يا سيدي وإلهي ومولاي تسلط النار على وجوه قرت لسامتك ساجدا، وعلى ألسن نطقت بتوحيدك صادقا وبشكرك مادها، وعلى قلوب اعترفت بإلهيتك محققا، وعلى زمائر هوت من العلم بك حتى صارت خاشية، وعلى جوارها سعت إلى أوطان التعودك طائية، وشارت باستغفارك مذعنا. ما هكذا ظنوا بك ولا أخبرنا بفضلك عنك يا كريم يا رب، وأنت تعلم ضعفي عن قليل من بلاء الدنيا وعقوباتها وما يجري فيها من المكاره على أهله، على أن ذلك بلاء ومكروه قليل مكثور، يسير بقاؤه قصير مدته، فكيف احتمال لبلاء الآخرة وجليلة وجليل وقوع المكاره فيها، وهو بلاء تطول مدته ويدوم مقامه ولا يخفف عن أهله، لأنه لا يكون إلا عن غضبك وانتقامك وسخطك، وهذا ما له تقوم له السماوات والأرض. يا سيدي فكيف لي وأنا عبدك ضعيف ذليل الحقير المسكين المستكين. يا إلهي وربي وسيدي ومولاي لأي الأمور إليك أشكو، ولما منها أذج وأبكي لأليم العذاب وشدته، أم لطول البلاء ومدته، فلا إن صيرتني للعقوبة مع أعدائك وجمعت بيني وبين أهل بلائك وفرقت بيني وبين أحبائك وأوليائك، فهبني يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي وربي، صبرت على عذابك فكيف أصبر على فراقك، وهبني صبرت على هرم نارك فكيف أصبر عن النظر إليك إلى كرامتك، أم كيف أسكن في النار ورجاء عفوك، فبعزتك يا سيدي ومولاي أقسم صادقا لئن تركتني ناطقا لا أذجن إليك بين أهلها ضجيج الآملين، ولا أصرخن إليك صراخ المستصرخين، ولا أبكين عليك بكاء الفاقدين، ولا أنادينك أين كنت يا ولي المؤمنين، يا غاية آمال العارفين، يا غياث المستغيثين. صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى
السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
يا غياث المستغيثين، يا غياث المستغيثين، يا غياث المستغيثين، يا حبيب قلوب الصادقين، ويا إله العالمين، أفتراك سبحانك يا إلهي وبحمدك تسمع فيها صوت عبد مسلم سجن فيها بمخالفته وذاق طعم عذابها بمعصيته وحبس بين أطباقها بجرمه وجريرته، وهو يضج إليك ضجيج مؤمن لرحمتك ويناديك بلسان أهل توحيدك ويتوسل إليك بربوبيتك. يا مولاي فكيف يبقى في العذاب وهو يرجو ما سلف من حلمك، أم كيف تؤلمه النار وهو يأمل فضلك ورحمتك، أم كيف يحرقه لهيبها وأنت تسمع صوته وترى مكانه، أم كيف يشتمل عليه زفيرها وأنت تعلم ضعفه، أم كيف يتقلقل بين أطباقها وأنت تعلم صدقه، أم كيف تزجره زبانيتها وهو يناديك يا ربا، أم كيف يرجو فضلك في عتقه منها فتتركه فيها، هيهات ما ذلك الظن به ولا المعروف من فضلك ولا مشبح لما عاملت به الموحدين من برك أو إحسانك، فباليقين أقطع لولا ما حكمت به من تعذيب جاحدك وقضيت به من إخلاد معاندك لجعلت النار كلها بردا وسلاما وما كان لأحد فيها مقرا ولا مقاما لكنك تقدست أسماؤك أقسمت أن تملأها من الكافرين من الجنة والناس أجمعين وأن تخلد فيها المعاندين وأنت جل ثناؤك كنت مبتدئا وتطولت بالإنعام متكرما أفمن كان مؤمنا كمن كان فاسقا لا يستوون إلهي وسيدي فأسألك بالقدرة التي قدرتها وبالقضية التي حتمتها وحكمتها وغلبت من عليه أجريتها أن تاب لي في هذه الليلة وفي هذه الساعة كل جرم أجرمته وكل ذنب أذنبته وكل قبيح أسررته وكل جهل عملته كتمته أو أعلنته أخفيته أو أظهرته وكل سيئة أمرت بإثباتها كراما كاتبين الذين وكلتهم بحفظ ما يكون مني وجعلتهم شهودا علي مع جوارحي وكنت أنت الرقيب علي من ورائهم والشاهد لما خفي عنهم وبرحمتك أخفيت وبفضلك سترت وأن توفر حظي من كل خير تنزل أو إحسان تفضل أو بر تنشر أو رزق تبسط أو ذنب تغفر أو خطأ تستر يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي ومالك رقي يا من بيده ناصيتي يا عليما بضري ومسكنتي يا خبيرا بفقري وفاقتي يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب أسألك بحقك وقدسك وأعظم صفاتك وأسمائك أن تجعل أوقاتي في الليل والنهار بذكرك معمورا وبخدمتك موصولا وأعمالي عندك مقبولا حتى تكون أعمالي وأورادي كلها وردا واحدا وحالي في خدمتك سرمدا يا سيدي يا من عليه معولي يا من إليه شكوت أحوالي يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب قوي على خدمتك جوارحي واشدد على العزيمة جوانحي وحبل الجد في خشيتك والدوام في الاتصال بخدمتك حتى أسرح إليك في ميادين السابقين وأسرع إليك في المبادرين وأشتاق إلى قربك في المشتاقين ودنو منك ذنو المخلصين وأخافك مخافة الموقنين وأجتمع في جوارك مع المؤمنين اللهم ومن أرادني بسوء فأريد ومن كادني فكيد واجعلني من أحسن عبيدك نصيبا عندك وأقربهم منزلة منك وأخصهم زلفة لديك فإنه لا ينال ذلك إلا بفضلك وجد لي بجودك وعطف علي بمجدك واحفظني برحمتك واجعل لساني بذكرك لهجا وقلبي بحبك متيما ومن علي بحسن إجابتك وقني عثرتي واغفر زلتي فإنك قضيت على عبادك بعبادتك وأمرتهم بدعائك وضمنت لهم الإجابة فإليك يا رب نصبت وجهي وإليك يا رب مددت يدي فبعزتك استجب لي دعائي وبلغني مناي ولا تقطع من فضلك ورجائي واكفني شر جن الإنس من أعدائي يا سريع الرضا يا سريع الرضا يا سريع الرضا اغفر لمن لا يملك إلا الدعاء فإنك فعال لما تشاء يا من اسمه دواء وذكره شفاء وطاعته غنى ارحم من رأس ماله الرجاء وسلاحه البكاء يا سابغ النعم يا دافع النقام يا نور المستوحشين في الظلام يا عالما لا يعلم صل على محمد وآل محمد وافعل بي ما أنت أهله وصلى الله على رسوله والأئمة الميامين من آله وسلم تسليما كثيرا.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Inshallah, if I can request you all to recite Al-Fatiha. As mentioned in the beginning of the program, that this Thursday night, this Majlis today, we'll be dedicating it for the Eethal Thawab, where we dedicate the Thawab of this Majlis to the Marhumin, especially starting with Marhum Ebrahim Kassam, who was the uncle of Sultan Uncle who passed away in Kenya, the uncles, the Chacha of Brother Murtaza Ali, and the mamu of Sister Shama Murtaza was Marhum Gulam Sajjad Dewraj, and dedicating the Thawab to all the shahada, and as well as it was received that the Marhuma Anis Azizi, who passed away today in Toronto, as she was the wife of Brother Ahad Sultani and the mothers of Brother Riza Sultani, Brother Jawad Sultani, Sister Marhum Alizi, Sister Amina, Sister Sumaya, Sister Zahra Sultani, Sister Nazanin Sultani, and the mother-in-law of the Jamaat Secretary Br, Jamshed Alizi. If you can recite Al-Fatiha for all these marhumin, the shuhada of Islam, the shuhada of Azadari, the shuhada of, and those ulama idam, maraj ikram have left this world, especially for those who do not have anyone left in this world, to recite Al-Fatiha. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And now, without any further ado, I'd request our respected Sheikh Shafiq to address this Majlis. And inshallah, where we dedicate the Thawab as the Eethal Thawab Majlis, inshallah, requesting our respectable Sheikh Shafiq. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين خالق السماوات والأرض إلها واحدا أحدا صمدا لم يتخذ صاحبة ولا ولدا والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين رحمة للعالمين طه وياسين بالقاسم محمد اللهم صل وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين المنتجبين ورحمة الله على محبيهم ولعنة الله على أعدائهم وقاتليهم وغاصب حقوق حقهم ومنكر فضائلهم أجمعين من يومنا هذا إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتبارك في كتابه الحكيم وفرقانه المجيد وقوله الحق: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم: كل نفس ذائقة الموت ثم إلينا ترجعون. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Respected sisters and brothers, my youngsters, my elders, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace and blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be upon all of you. It was, as we are continuing these days of Ayyam Fatimiyya, and of course tonight, as my dear Sayyid mentioned, that we are also keeping the Eethal Thawab Majlis for the uncle of Murtaza Ali, and for the uncle of my father as well, Ebrahim Kassam and Gulam Sajjad Dewraj. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give the thawab of this majlis to them. And I thought that in a way we can continue our discussion and still give the tribute to the marhumin. Because one of the things that I was talking about in our earlier majlis, in our earlier series, was a little bit of a discussion on some of the companions, some of the noble companions of the Holy Prophet of Islam, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And basically the Prophet's own life was an example, and those who were the noble, the true followers of the Holy Prophet, their lives were also an example and a source of beacon, a source of light for the community and for us even till today. One of the things that we see in history and in the life of the Prophet, the life of the lives of the Aimma alayhimus salam, the life of Fatima Zahra salamullahi alayha, is the fact that these are not limited to a certain time. The lives and the example of the holy personalities are not limited to one time, one era, one zamana, one century. And this is what makes it very transient. This makes it very, very eternal. The message is an eternal message. And the examples of these noble personalities will remain at any time, in any era, as well as in any location, geographic location. Because a lot of times people think that, oh, well, this example or this law of the Sharia or this particular aspect of Islam is only applicable in a certain time or in a certain place or in a certain era. So they limit it by geography, they limit it by history, they limit it by time phase. But in actuality, we see that the examples of the nobility and the nobleness is for all times, not just limited. And those who are near and dear to the Holy Prophet and near and dear to the Ahlul Bayt are examples of that as well. So while we can say that the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, peace be upon them all, are ma'soom, they are examples that perhaps we will have very hard time following. But then the other companions, the other examples that we have are people like you and me. And as a result, we can actually use them to be followed, and we can use them to follow. Oftentimes poets have written that if you cannot get to Ali ibn Abi Talib, at least get to Salman. If you can't reach Imam Hassan or Imam Hussein, at least try to be Habib or try to be Miqdad or Salman or Abu Dhar. I mean, these are role models that we can have, and everybody needs a role model, no matter how old you are. You can be an uncle, you can be a granduncle. When I was asking my father the age of his uncle, and we were obviously very close to him, and I had a phone call, a message from one of my uncles, Kausar Ladda, who is the treasurer of Nasimco for a number of time. He said, Ibrahim Kassam, we worked with a long time, very soft-spoken, very pleasant gentleman. And as a result of being a pleasant and soft-spoken gentleman, he was also very fit physically. I mean, at the age of 90, mashallah, he was still very, very fit. And I remember my last meeting with him at my father's house. that it was the spirit was there, and the as a result of looking after himself, the health and the fitness was there. And so when we look at examples that we can follow, and we want to try and inshallah be like. So age doesn't matter. Some people, for example, have given up on life at a very young age, and especially during this pandemic time, people are talking about how upsetting, depressing it is. But we have to keep ourselves very, very we must say tuned up, if you want to call it that. If you leave your car without a tune-up and you don't drive it, okay, pandemic hai, boy, ye hai, kya bolte hai, lockdown hai, and all this is happening, and you just leave your car, and for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you don't live it, you don't turn it on, you don't move it around, what will happen? It will start getting rusty. It will start becoming difficult to drive after a month, especially in the winter, even in the summer as well. So the same way our bodies are similar to that car, where you need to start it every so often. We need to keep our minds running, tuned up, well oiled, and we need to make sure that we are always on a regular basis moving our minds, thinking things, reading a book. This is the perfect time to read a book. Listen to lectures online and do something. And even if they're not religious lectures, I'm not telling you to all go out to become mullahs, because if you all go and become mullahs, then some of us will be out of a job even more. Okay. So we're telling you at least to increase one's spirituality or one's intellectualization. Read intellectual books, even if they're not as quote Islamic or religious books. So something that'll keep our mind polished and our mind active. And as I said, that when we read or go through any of the religious or Islamic or spiritual stories, sometimes our spiritual station elevates. And right from before the Prophet, we have examples of individuals who had an exemplary faith and an exemplary outlook. All of you have heard Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alam tara kayfa fa'ala rabbuka bi ashabil fil. Do you not reflect on the story of the elephant? Ashabil fil, the people of the elephant. They're talking about a very famous story, which all of you had heard on many, many occasions. I know ulama have talked about it. Those who have done a commentary on Surah Al-Fil have given beautiful examples of it, and without using much humor, because we don't want to make light of the Quran Majid. But somebody who was new to Islam, when somebody was reading Surah Baqarah to him, and it took about 2.5 hours to finish Surah Al-Baqarah, and then the Maulana or the Qari, he says, okay, we have finished the Surah of Baqarah, the Surah of the cow. Now we will be reciting the Surah of Fil, the elephant. So this poor man, he starts running away. He says, well, the other man asked him, the mullah asked him, why are you running away? Kyun bhag rahe ho? He says, if the Baqarah was 2.5 hours, the cow was 2.5 hours, imagine what the elephant will be like. Imagine what the elephant will be like. But here, as you know, Surah Al-Fil is one of the shortest surahs of the Holy Quran Majid. And Allah Ta'ala is talking about an episode that had happened at the time of the Prophet's birth. Now, oftentimes when I talk about how the Prophet was born in the year of the elephant, some of the non-Muslim schools, the Christian or Catholic schools, I go to public schools as well, they think that this is the year of the elephant, just like the Chinese, the year of the rat, the year of the dragon, the year of the monkey, the year of the... It's not like that. The year of the elephant was a year in which a very interesting episode had happened in the Quran and Majid has spoken about it. There was a king, but actually I need to give you a little bit of a very brief, a short history, so I will not take too much of your time, inshallah. There was a king whose name was Tu Nawas. Tu Nawas was a king who was in what is present-day Yemen, the southern part of the Arabian Peninsula. And he was actually a good king. He didn't want to follow the example of the kings before that, who were very lustful, who were immoral, who were power hungry, who wanted to be dictators and who wanted to be tyrants. He was actually he was a decent king. And as he was traveling oftentimes, he once went to the area that is today known as Madinatul Nabi, or Medina. At that time it was called Yathrib. And so Tu Nawas, and this has been authenticated by Sheikh Bakr al-Ansari in his narrations from the Holy Quran. So if you want the reference, I'm giving you the reference as well. So he basically, Tu Nawas was passing through Yathrib, and he saw that the Jewish community, who had settled there in very large numbers, were very practicing faith and monotheism, believing in the oneness of God. And so they would talk to him about it. They would try to encourage him to become Jewish, and eventually he accepted their religion, the monotheistic religion of Judaism at the time, and he would have lots of discussions and all that. And now this was the area that was the one part of the Yemeni area, what is today Yemen, the southern part of the Arabian Peninsula. Next door to that was Najran. And Najran had a predominantly Christian community. And so there was always this tussle between the Judeo-Christian, traditions and ways of life. So what happened was basically the Jewish community encouraged Nawaz to not let any other religion be prevalent and make sure that their religion was prevalent everywhere. And so he agreed, and he was very, very rough with the other Christians and with the other ones who didn't want to believe in his religion. So he would punish them. He had built a large pit and he had filled it with fire, and if people didn't accept, they would be thrown in there. Ultimately, one of these people from Najran, one of these Christians from Najran, managed to escape from Najran and reached with difficulty. I mean, there was no planes and airplanes and trains and buses and cars and taxis. At that time, it was either going on foot, which was the predominant way of transport, or if you had the money for a camel or a horse or a donkey, then that would be the other way of transporting, traveling. He managed to reach the Roman Empire, and he went to Caesar Rome, the Caesar Rome, the king of Rome, and he said, "Look, this is what's happening to our Christian brothers and sisters, and I need your help. Please send an army, help us defend against this." To Nawaz and his policies of conversion, basically. So the Caesar Rome, the Caesar of Rome, the king of Rome, said that, look, Yemen is very far from me, but he wrote a letter to the Abyssinian king, the king of Abyssinia, which is what present-day Ethiopia is. He said that is closer for him, so let him take action. And so when this letter reached the Abyssinian king, he prepared a large army, and there was a very, very big war, a big battle between Thunawas and his kingdom and Abyssinian kingdom, and ultimately the Abyssinians won, the Ethiopians won, and Thunawas was defeated, and once again this area came under Christian control. And thereafter the king that was appointed, the Abyssinian king appointed Abraha to be the king of this area of Yemen. And so this King Abraha now, he wanted to, obviously make a nice tourist attraction, a tourist place for his people and for himself. Of course, he wanted to get the revenues of that. And similar to places like Dubai and those who have, become a tourist center, some other countries are trying. Istanbul is, reaching that point, and Doha wants to be, a center of tourist attraction and what have you. And now even the Hijaz wants to, na'udhu billah, open up things of halal and haram and increase tourism revenue. Khair. That is another subject altogether. So Abraha, and I'm going to try and make this a bit short, Abraha basically decided that he had built a beautiful church, and with gold, ruby, emeralds, diamonds, all that, and he kept it very, very nice. And he told the people who were going to Mecca to go to the Baytullah, which Ibrahim had built thousands of years before that. He was telling them, don't go to Mecca anymore, come here. Come to my church. It's so beautiful. It's so nice. It's so attractive. Why are you going to a black stone building, like a stone building where covered with a black cloth and all that? Khair. So even then, people were still going to Makkah. So Abraha, in fact, one night, what had happened was in his this church that he had made of gold and ruby and diamonds, somebody went and put some dirt inside there. And some writers have said that it was, Meccan dirt. Some said that one of the Meccans had done it. Some said one of the pilgrims who was going to Mecca had done it. Whatever the point was, that there was some dirt in this church. And when Abraha went there for his morning ziyarah or whatever, he saw this dirt and he was very upset. And he basically asked, who did this? And one of them said that this guy from Makkah must have done it, or the one who was going to Makkah or came back from Makkah, he did it. So now this incited Abraha even more, got him even more angry. And he decided to take an army of elephants. Now, our youngsters may not be able to appreciate this, because today we are talking in an era of tanks and MiG fighters and, phantom planes, and we're talking about, nuclear weapons. And, tanks is the closest example I can think of. In those days, they had elephants. Today we have tanks. So the elephants were like the tanks of today. So they would be the strongest known animal or the strongest known army force that would be able to cause great damage. So as Abraha announces that I'm going to go there, I'm going to destroy the Kaaba. That is my intention. I want to destroy the Kaaba. And so that was his ultimate goal. Let's destroy the Kaaba. In the process of wanting to destroy the Kaaba, he was going, and some of the people who heard about this, who heard that he was planning on destroying the Kaaba, they decided to mobilize and come forward and try and fight and basically confront Abraha. When they got in front of this army of elephants, they saw that these are powerful elephants. Abraha is not joking. This is a huge army, and they became frightened. They got scared. And this reminded me of even in our era that we live in today, sometimes people tell us, oh, don't iska mukabila na karna, don't confront this oppressor, don't confront that country, don't confront that superpower, don't speak against that that entity, that power. You don't know what they can do. They can put you in jail, they can put you in torture, they can do this. And the same thing that happened in Abraha's time. Some people saw the army, they saw it because Abraha was the superpower of the time. He had become a powerful person, a powerful entity, a powerful emperor, and he had the best weapons, elephants at the time. So many of these people fled. They thought that they would try and save the Kaaba, but in essence, they wanted to save themselves, and they ran from the battlefield. And you see people throughout history like that as well, in the time of Karbala, in the time of Amirul Mu'mineen or Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba, and even today. Some people will remain loyal to the messages of the Ahlul Bayt and the followers of Ahlul Bayt, and the heroes that we have, like Shaheed Qasif Soleimani, Abu Mahdi, Dr. Mohsen Fakhrizadeh. We've got Ayatollah Sheikh Nimar, who was a great leader, a great martyr, and we've got living leaders like Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, Abdul Malik al-Houthi, and the Imam Khamenei himself, who are exemplary leaders and exemplary people. But there are those who will support. There are those who will leave them. Okay, Abraha keeps going, and just before he reaches Makkah, he gives his army permission to plunder and steal and loot and whatever. So one of these soldiers, one of these commanders, he goes and he steals 200 camels from Hazrat Abdul Muttalib. This is the grandfather of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Steals 200 camels. Everything is there. And ultimately, a delegation goes to Hazrat Abdul Muttalib and says that, Abraha is planning on attacking your Kaaba and destroying this house of God that you have and all that. But at the same time, he wants to meet with the chief of Makkah. Who is the chief of Makkah? Everybody pointed to Abdul Muttalib. So a delegation went from Abraha to Abdul Muttalib and basically brought him to Abraha. And when Abraha saw Hazrat Abdul Muttalib, he was in awe. This is the leader of Makkah, very charismatic leader, nobility. Obviously, as I mentioned, he is a descendant of Nabi Allah Ibrahim alayhi salam. He is going to be the grandfather of Rasulullah. So there was an awe of, honor around him. Okay. So what happens is that Abraha actually stands up and seats Abdul Muttalib beside him, and he says that what my plan is, and so this is it. Is there anything you want to say? Abraha asks Abdul Muttalib, is there anything you want to say? Hazrat Abdul Muttalib says that your soldiers stole my camels, my 200 camels. I want those camels back. Abraha looked at him and is almost in a humiliating tone. He's saying to him that I have come, I was respecting you before. Now I think you're not worthy of respect. I have come to destroy your most religious, your most sacred place, and you're asking me about your 200 camels? I'm coming to destroy your Kaaba. Allahu Akbar. I'm saying Allahu Akbar. Abraha didn't say Allahu Akbar. Okay. And so Hazrat Abdul Muttalib's reply, this is what I wanted to bring you to. Hazrat Abdul Muttalib's reply was that those camels that you stole belong to me. I am the Malik. I am the owner of those camels. The owner of the house of Allah is Allah himself. I want my property back. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will defend his property. Allahu Akbar. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And Abraha was odd. He basically expelled Hazrat Abdul Muttalib and when it went on. At that time, the people in Makkah, Hazrat Abdul Muttalib told them, leave Makkah. This is an army coming. They will cause destruction. Go into the caves, go into the mountains, go away from Makkah. Little children were crying. There was a lot of commotion. And some people, actually went to the Kaaba, held on. He says, Ya Allah, please protect it. Oh God, please protect it, and what have you. And basically, when the time came close, everybody had left the city of Makkah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at that time sends small birds, the ababil, with small pebbles in their mouth. And these small birds with small pebbles, normally one by one, would have been of no use whatsoever. One by one, these birds could have not. But when hundreds and maybe thousands, in fact, it was narrated that the sky had turned black, and each of these, together with one pebble, one small pebble, were able to annihilate the entire army of Abraha, the elephants, the soldiers. In fact, there is another narration that the elephants were very reluctant. They were being beaten to go in there, but they didn't want to of their own will. But anyways, different story for another day. But the soldiers, some said that these stones, when they landed on them, it gave them a disease, an illness, and that illness caused them to basically bleed and die. Some said that the actual impact, because from the height, if you drop a small stone, if you drop a penny, a pebble from a height, that can cause a lot more damage than just flicking it at somebody. And so this entire, now what I wanted to say, that one bird alone could not have done anything. But when all these birds got together, they were able to defeat the army of the superpower of the time, Abraha. The elephants were destroyed. The tanks of that zamana were destroyed. All I'm saying to the Muslim world is that the same way the Ababil united together with their numbers, even if they had small pebbles with them, that unity caused the destruction of the army of Abraham, and that unity was the strength of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation. One salawat upon Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. So they were completely, Abraha's entire army was destroyed. Nobody survived basically. And the Kaaba, holy Kaaba, was saved. Hazrat Abdul Muttalib's Iman was what I wanted to talk about in this discussion today. As you know, that in my discussions, I only take a look at two companions so that I'm able to concentrate on that and take a lesson. His Iman and his Aqidah. Please don't take it wrong that, he was after his camels, he was after his property. No, that wasn't the point. He was making an issue that having certainty, having faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala means that you don't look at the power that's there. You don't look at how strong the power is, how strong and mighty these so-called weapons are. You look at the faith that is inside, and that yaqeen, that certainty has to be there. The certainty is what will bring me to my other companion. This one companion, his title became his name. His title is Dhu Shahadatain. And he became so mashhur, so well known and so common as Dhu Shahadatain, that even today, many writers, and even if you go on Google, if you go on Wikipedia and different, you will find his name, but right away you will find that his title is there as well. His title is Dhu Shahadatain, to witness. And his actual name was Khuzaima ibn Thabit. Khuzaima. But very few people know this about Khuzaima. How did he get the Shahada? How did he get this title? How did he become Dhu Shahadatain, the two witnesses? The story was also an interesting one. I'll take a few minutes of your time to share it with you, inshallah, and we'll conclude with, in the majlis today. The Dhu Shahadatain, one day, the Prophet of Islam, after the announcement of prophethood, after everything, Prophet had migrated to Medina. Outskirts of Medina, the Prophet was there one day, and he sees a man with a horse, and he's asking this man, the man was not a Muslim, he was asking this man, is this horse for sale? And the man says, yes, it's for sale. So they were negotiating the price. And I often tell people that, negotiating prices is good. If they're asking for something for $20, you can bid, $10, and likely you will probably come to an agreement on $15. So, he gives halfway, you go halfway, and there's a reasonable sale. Sadly, I have seen so many people, they go to ziyarah, they go to umrah, especially in ziyarah places like Iraq or Iran or Syria. And what do? They bring the price so down that the man is asking, for example, 20 dirham, 20 dinar, 20 tuman for something, and this person says, I'll give you 5. Okay, I'll give you 6. And the value of that thing is probably 12 or 13. And now this man has to make a sale. I often tell, sometimes my sisters, if they're in this negotiating mood, sometimes even the men I have to talk to, because men also are just as much negotiators and bargainers. I said, please remember one thing. Be fair. Yes, Islam encourages us to negotiate, but be fair. Don't loot that person. If you give him a hadiyah, if you give him 2 dirhams, 2 tumans, 2 dinars, 2 dirhams extra, maybe he might be able to take some food for his family, some meat for his family. Maybe he'll take a little treat, a little chocolate for his son or daughter. Like, let's be fair as well. Please be understanding, especially when you're going to a third world country. Our dollars have got, mashallah, significant value. It will not hurt us to part with 10 cents, 20 cents, 50 cents, $1 extra. Please keep this in mind. Even when you go to a hotel or go somewhere and the housekeeper is there and you give them a toonie or give them a loonie extra, they might buy a coffee with it. It might not be much, but it might just make somebody happy. And this actually becomes our sadaqah when you make somebody happy and when you actually give something. So, sadaqah is not just limited to money only, but to help somebody, to make somebody smile or happy. All of the daraja, which increases our rizq, increases our barakah, increases our life, increases our rizq, increases, our own safety, our families. All of that applies. So don't think that you can. It's only money and it's only large amounts of money. No, anything we do to sadaqah, you make somebody happy. You say salam to somebody who might be sad that day, and you bring a smile to their face. That is also sadaqah, my sisters and brothers. Okay. The Prophet negotiates the price, and they agree on a certain price. The Prophet says, okay, you hang on to the camel, the deal is done. We have a subject in fiqh called mu'amalat. And this is, buying and selling, business transactions are in this overall subject of mu'amalat. The Prophet says, hang on to it, the deal is done. I will pay you when we get back into Medina. In my house, my money is over there. The deal is done, and I will pay you as soon as you just hold on to the horse and we come there. The man says, fine. They come into Medina. They're going to the manzil, to the Bayt al-Rasul, the house of the Holy Prophet, which is adjacent to the masjid. And as they are coming close to the Masjid al-Nabawi, where the Prophet's house also is, another man sees the horse, he likes it, and he says, I will pay you X number of dinars or dirhams, whatever, which is more than what he had negotiated with the Prophet. He says, sold. This man says, sold. This businessman who had the horse. The Prophet says, no, this belongs to me. We had agreed on it. It's my property. I just have to not pay you for it. The man asks him, give me a witness. Who's your witness? Do you have any proof? What proof do you have? So the Prophet calls some of the companions. He says that I bought this horse outside of Medina. Are you willing to give witness for me? So companion A says, Ya Rasulullah, I wasn't there. I didn't see it. I'm sorry. I don't know. Companion B, Ya Rasulullah, I wasn't there. I didn't see it. I'm so sorry. I love you and everything, but I wasn't there, so I didn't see it. I cannot give witness. 3 and 4, these companions are asked, and none of them can give witness. All of a sudden, the Prophet looks at Khuzaimah. Khuzaimah is passing by. He says, oh, Khuzaimah, will you give witness, the testimony that this horse is mine? Khuzaimah immediately says, Ashhadu an, I bear witness that this horse belongs to the Holy Prophet, to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This seller made no choice. He got a witness. The Prophet got it. Just after that, when the companions are all again nearby, the Prophet asks Khuzaimah, he says, you weren't there. How did you give witness that this was my horse when you didn't see it, you didn't hear it? Remember, Rasulullah's position is Rasulullah's position. You must keep this in mind. Khuzaimah's reply was so beautiful. Allahu Akbar. He says, Ya Rasulullah, you're talking about seeing the transaction taking place. He says, you told us to believe in Allah. We believe in Allah even though we have not seen Allah with our own eyes. Ya Rasulullah, you tell us to believe in angels. Without seeing angels, we have believed in the angels, Jibreel and Mikael. Ya Rasulullah, without seeing it, we believe in Jannat and Jahannam that you have talked to us about. Without seeing it, we have believed in the revelation. Without seeing all of that, we have believed in you, Ya Rasulullah. You are Sadiq and Al-Amin. What, you will lie about one horse? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa You will lie about one horse? He says, of course I will give testimony. Without seeing anything, we believe in it because you are Rasulullah, you told us. After that day, the Prophet says, Antadu shahadatain. After today, your witness, your testimony will be the equivalent of two men's testimony. Allahu Akbar. This was Dhu Shahadatain. That's why his title became Dhu Shahadatain, the giver of two witnesses. So you can see that what it means to believe in Rasulullah, to trust Rasulullah completely. I just give an example to my students. They were, well, Rasulullah, he is an example, but at the same time, he is the Rasul of Allah. For example, there are certain things Rasulullah can do that we cannot do. And then there are certain responsibilities on Rasulullah that are not wajib on us. For Rasulullah to recite 51 rakats every day, including the nafilas, in addition to the total of 51, including the 17 wajib, is wajib on the Holy Prophet. Ours is only 17. Okay, so people say, oh, why did Rasulullah have 11 wives and we're only allowed 4 wives and all that? No, the Prophet's position and status is different than yours and mine, and the obligations on him are different than you and me. Okay, as I mentioned that we are having the Eethal Thawab Majlis and remembering the Marhumin, and both gentlemen who we are remembering, as well as the Shuhada of last year and the Shuhada of the years that have passed. Allahu Akbar, the list is endless. We saw what happened to the Hazara community, these 11 young men who are just doing the rizq, performing their obligation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of earning a livelihood in rizq, getting murdered. And the enemies have always tried to create fear in the Shia and the followers of Ahlul Bayt through these atrocities, through these crimes. They always thought that by murdering as many followers of Ahlul Bayt, we will try and end the message of the Ahlul Bayt, but it doesn't work like that, my dear sisters and brothers. Because whenever a tragedy befalls us, whenever a shahadat comes, or a wafat comes, somebody in our family, in our friends passes away, we immediately remember Abu Abdullah and we say, Mawla, our pain is nothing compared to what you had suffered. Our loss is nothing compared to what you have suffered and what your family has suffered. Yabna Rasulullah, on the plains of Karbala, the Imam so bravely announces, after the shahadat of Hazrat Ali Asghar, Hazrat Imam Hussein looks towards the heavens and he says, Ya Allah, you bear witness that whatever Hussein had, Hussein gave in your way. If I had anything more, Ya Allah, I would have even given that in your way. I would have even given that in your way. So the Shuhada give us a spirit and a sense of life, a new meaning of living. And this was the same about Abdullah. When he falls from Zuljana, when he is attacked from all sides, there is a certain coolness that Abu Abdullah feels. The writers of history have mentioned that what was that coolness Abu Abdullah felt? He felt his mother's lap, that he fell on his mother's lap, and Hazrat Fatima Zahra, whose ayyam we are marking, is holding on to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. But my only thing that the historians could not tell me was what was going on in the heart of Fatima Zahra when she sees her Hussein covered in blood and arrows and spears. My salams on Hazrat Fatima Zahra bint Rasulullah biha. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. Oh Allah, please accept this ibadat from us. Give us the tawfiq back on the teachings of Quran and Majid and the Ahlul Bayt. Ya Allah, the Eethal Thawab for today's majlis, granted to the two marhumin in our family, the three marhumin in our family, including the sister, my mother-in-law of brother Jamshed Alizi, who has passed away, the Shuhada, all of the Shuhada in the attack that the Americans had done in January of last year, for the Marhumin who were killed in the airplane that was downed as a result of this American adventurism, for Dr. Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, for Abbas Musawi, for the Shuhada in the Hazara Shuhadas, for Shaitul and Nimr, for all of those who have been killed wrongly, for all those who died unjustly. Ya Allah, grant the thawab of today's majlis to them. Oh Allah, when we leave this world, protect us from the difficulties of maut, difficulties in the qabr, difficulties of Yawm al-Qiyamah. Ya Allah, those who are ill, grant them shifa kamila from their illnesses, whether it is cancer, whether it is this pandemic, this coronavirus, whether it is any other illness. Ya Allah, grant them shifa kamila. بحق هذا المجلس. All of this is Laylatul Jummah, Shab Jummah. Accept our deeds, our good deeds. Amplify our good deeds and forgive our sins, Ya Allah. We ask you to protect our ulama, our maraja, the rahbar, the waliya faqih, the mujtahideen, the maraja who are serving while the imam is in occultation. Grant them a long and healthy life in the service of Islam. Grant a hasty downfall to the enemies, to the oppressors, to those who are trying to deviate the religion of Islam, those munafiqeen who are creating friction and sowing discord amongst the Muslims, whether it is through movies, whether it is through any of their deeds, their actions, their videos, their anything. Ya Allah, hasten downfall of the hypocrites and the munafiqeen and the muzalimin and all of them. Grant strength to the madlumin and mustadafin. Ya Allah, we ask you to return our Mawla Imam al-Hujjah. Make us amongst the ashab and the ansar of the Imam. Let us see zamana dhuhur with our own eyes, and let us be with the Imam till the end of our lives. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم. If we can recite 5 times together, for those who are ill, for Allah Ta'ala to give them shifa, for our hajat to be accepted, for the hifazat of Imam Zamana, and for the safety and the security of the mu'mineen in Pakistan, in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Syria, in Chechnya, in Kashmir, in Palestine, in Nigeria, in Syria, in Lebanon, and in Yemen, wherever there is suffering, Ya Allah, and in Eastern Hijaz, all together, please. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amma yujibul muttarra idha da'a wa yakshifu su. Amma yujibul muttarra idha da'a wa yakshifu su. Amma yujibul muttarra idha da'a wa yakshifu su. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعا ويكشف السوء أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعا ويكشف السوء اللهم اشف كل مريض اللهم صل على محمد. If we can recite 1 time Surah Fatiha, 3 times Surah Tawheed for the Marhumin, for whose Eethal Thawab Majlis, the Shuhada, and as our dear Sayyid Taha mentioned, for Fatiha for all those for whom there is nobody to recite Fatiha. Al-Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء والأموات تابع بينهم من الخيرات إنك مجيب الدعوات إنك على كل شيء قدير. جزاكم الله خير. في أمان الله all of you.
Thank you very much, Shaykhna. May Allah, inshallah, increase your efforts, and we pray for your well-being, your safety, your security, and the safety and security of all the mu'mineen across the world. Thank you very much. And inshallah, brothers and sisters, we will be concluding today's majlis with the recitation of Ziyat al-Waritha. I'll request Brother Maitham Panjali, inshallah, the recitation. Sallu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad.
Wa ali Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليك يا وارث آدم صفوة الله. السلام عليك يا وارث نوح نبي الله. السلام عليك يا وارث إبراهيم خليل الله. السلام عليك يا وارث موسى كليم الله. السلام عليك يا وارث عيسى روح الله. السلام عليك يا وارث محمد حبيب الله. السلام عليك يا وارث أمير المؤمنين عليه السلام ولي الله. السلام عليك يا ابن محمد المصطفى. السلام عليك يا ابن علي المرتضى. السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء. السلام عليك يا ابن خديجة الكبرى. السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتور. والوتر الموتور. أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وآتيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونهيت عن المنكر وأطعت الله ورسوله حتى أتاك اليقين فلعن الله أمة قتلتك ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأصلاب الشامخة والأرحام المطهرة لم تنجسك الجاهلية بأنجاسها ولم تلبسك من مدلهمات ثيابها وأشهد أنك من دعائم الدين وأركان المؤمنين وأشهد أنك الإمام البر التقي الرضي الزكي الهادي المهدي وأشهد أن الأئمة من ولدك كلمة التقوى وأعلام الهدى والعروة الوثقى والحجة على أهل الدنيا وأشهد الله وملائكته وأنبياءه ورسله أني بكم مؤمن وبإيابكم موقن بشرائع ديني وخواتيم عملي وقلبي لقلبكم سلم وأمري لأمركم متبع صلوات الله عليكم وعلى أرواحكم وعلى أجسادكم وعلى أجسامكم وعلى شاهدكم وعلى غائبكم وعلى ظاهركم وعلى باطنكم سيرة علي بن الحسين السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله السلام عليك يا ابن نبي الله السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين السلام عليك يا ابن الحسين الشهيد السلام عليك أيها الشهيد السلام عليك أيها المظلوم وابن المظلوم لعن الله أمة قتلتك ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به جرة الشهداء السلام عليكم يا أولياء الله وأحباءه السلام عليكم يا أصفياء الله وأوداءه السلام عليكم يا أنصار دين الله السلام عليكم يا أنصار رسول الله السلام عليكم يا أنصار أمير المؤمنين السلام عليكم يا أنصار فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي محمد الحسن بن علي الولي الزكي الناصح السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي عبد الله بأبي أنتم وأمي طبتم وطابت الأرض التي فيها دفنتم وفزتم فوزا عظيما فيا ليتني كنت معكم فأفوز معكم سيرة العباس عليه السلام السلام عليك يا أبا الفضل العباس بن أمير المؤمنين والسلام عليك يا ابن سيد الوصيين السلام عليك يا ابن أول القوم إسلاما وأقدمهم إيمانا وأقومهم بدين الله وأحوطهم على الإسلام أشهد لقد نصحت لله ولرسوله ولأخيك فنعم الأخ المواسي فلعن الله أمة قتلتك ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك ولعن الله أمة استحلت منك المحارم وانتهكت حرمة الإسلام فنعم الصابر المجاهد المحامي الناصر والأخ الدافع عن أخيه المجيب إلى طاعة ربه الراغب فيما زهد فيه غيره من الثواب الجزيل والثناء الجميل وألحقك الله بدرجة آبائك في جنات النعيم السلام عليكم يا أهل بيت النبوة ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل على محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد عجل.
Thank you very much, dear brother. And with this, brothers and sisters, we will be concluding today's majlis. Inshallah, pray that Allah keeps you all safe and secure, and inshallah, may Allah hasten the advent of Al-Hujjah and consider all of us amongst His Ashabis and His true lovers, inshallah. Sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin.